What's good, yeah. So it's finally time to talk about Artemis. The banner's over, and I hope every one of you that tried to pull for him actually had the chance to get him, and now it's time to determine how to make the best use of him. So, what we're going to talk about is going to be skill ups, when can you actually stop with skill crystals, then we're going to talk about gear, and after that we're going to have a look at all the areas in the game where you can mainly make use of him. So, obviously, let's get into the skills, and we're going to start with the attack. The basic attack states that it grants attack-based healing to one ally in range, so he's an attack-based healer, which is obviously going to be important for how to gear him. Secondly, we have Revitalizing Shot. During the ultimate, heals up to 3 allies around the target with a 130% healing multiplier upon hit. Basic attack prioritizes enemy targets during the ultimate unless they are only allies in range. So that's just a straight up him getting a up to 1.5 multiplier when it comes to healing in his ultimate. Sanguine Tonic periodically locks onto allies excluding the hero and throws Sanguine Tonic on them. When hitting a target, applies Blood Craving on nearby allies and heals them with a 180% healing multiplier, going down to a cooldown of every 20 seconds. Now, what is Blood Craving? Blood Craving is a buff that allows Artemis to heal units that are under effect of Blood Craving by 30% more. So it's just a straight up, again, 1.3 multiplier to the healing he applies to those allies. And furthermore, it synergizes with his talent that states when healing allies applied with Blood Craving restores 2% rage. So every 20 seconds he's going to target allies, apply Blood Craving to those allies, heal them by 180% and then a 1.3 multiplier, as well as restoring rage as long as he applies healing to those units that now have the Sanguine Tonic on them. Which brings us to the last part of his kit, which is the ultimate, the Crimson Reaper. During the ultimate, locks onto enemies, dealing 160% AoE damage to up to 8 enemies with each attack and inflicting anti-heal on them. Anti-heal for a total of 3 seconds. So this skill normally has a duration of 15 seconds, going up all the way to 20 seconds, and the rage cost going down from 1200 all the way down to 1000, and also the damage increasing from 160% all the way to 200%. So, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see it. I was a bit unlucky on my account here, getting this ultimate not skilled up a single time, and also just a random thought. I actually managed to run out of legendary dust. So after upgrading arrogance and lust, I am now a brokey. But enough of that. Let's talk about the skills. So honestly, the basic attack is nice, but if you can avoid it, it's good enough. He has high enough healing anyway. Revitalizing Shot during the ultimate heals up to 3 allies is also nice, but it's also not really that big of a difference in comparison to just increasing the healing multiplier by 100%. Sanguine Tonic, you could argue for it, but at the end of the day, as long as you get, for example, level 3 with another 5-second cooldown, it's basically the same thing and it doesn't really affect his performance. The only ability where you truly want skill ups, and that is going to be his ultimate. In a perfect world, you're going to go in, skill him up with dust and get the ultimate to level 4, which gives you not only 40% increased damage, but also a 25% increase in duration, or in this case even 33%, but then a total of 20 seconds, which is like the main threshold you're aiming for. And then depending on how you use him, the more offensively you want to use him, the more you're relying on his damage, the more you're actually looking for that reduced skill cost. Because as long as the skill cost is reduced, you can use his ultimate more often. If you can use his ultimate often, you're going to be able to do more damage. So kind of that's the gist of it. The more offensively you want to use him, the higher the ultimate, and in general ultimate level 4, and the rest are meh. Obviously they all come together to make his kit work, but he's not gonna be bad at healing just because you have one of those abilities at level 2 instead of level 5. Awakenings. So let's start off with the first awakening, also the most interesting of the bunch, which is going to be during the ultimate increases crit rate by 50%, so his Crimson Reaper only needs a total crit rate of 47% with Cultist Collection bonus, but in general, let's just call it 50%. So now you might be wondering, wait, isn't that super broken? Doesn't it make it super easy to gear him? The answer is some people overstate the value of this awakening. Because at the end of the day, he really isn't that hard to gear. We'll get to that in a second. But you don't really need the crit rate, and I'll show you in a bit why. So further down we have straight up 300 attack. 300 attack is nice, makes him do more damage, makes him do more healing, but I mean it's just stats. Then right here we have increases the effect duration of blood curdling on all allies by 5 seconds, so it goes from a 10 second to a 15 second buff, which means he also has 5 seconds longer to regenerate rage by healing them, but also that isn't anything super important, and if you have him at A3 it's more of a okay, I take it, instead of I need to go for it. A4, rage regen auto allows him to regenerate 16 instead of 15 rage per second. You're probably going to notice it, but it's not that big of a deal. And then lastly, Sanguine Tonic heals allies in range with 30% healing multiplier per second, lasting for 5 seconds. So as long as he throws this Sanguine Tonic on allies, they're also going to get an AoE heal effect for 5 seconds for a total of 150% healing multiplier. But again, it's a case of, I mean, if you have it, he's gonna heal a bit more, but at the end of the day, it's nothing special. So yeah, honestly, his awakenings aren't all that great, which is, contrary to belief, actually something really good, because if you don't need to pull a hero multiple times, you can be very happy just having him pulled once. And honestly, I guess that's kind of good, because it's always a problem if awakenings are just too strong and then you have way bigger of a disadvantage in comparison to others, but also it can make it kind of annoying pulling copies of the same hero. So yeah, now that we've talked about awakenings, it's time to talk about gear. Alright, it's gearing time, and first off, just imagine Artemis as a damage dealer. That's the best way to just go over it, and the best way to think about how to actually gear him. And for that, let's have a look at the A1 again. So the A1 allows you to reduce the crit rate you need to build him by 50%, because he also only does damage in his ultimate. And why isn't it anything special? That is because you really want to look for pieces that have attack speed on them. And if you're looking for pieces that have attack speed on them, you're also going to look for pieces that have crit damage. And finding pieces that have attack speed, crit damage, as well as attack percent, be it attack percent or crit damage in the top set, and then don't have crit rate is honestly very, very rare. Because for most cases, especially for pretty much all players, the way you're going to find pieces that have all those 4 stats is pretty much on an ancient, or in general pieces that have all those 4 stats, even if they're normal pieces. So the advantage you get from his ultimate isn't all that big, because you're going to build him like a damage dealer anyway. Now, some might be wondering, wait, but don't you need to build him with all those stats? No, you really only need to build him with number 1, attack, number 2, attack speed, number 3, crit damage, and number 4, crit rate. Now, obviously then there's the question, but why aren't we building him with rage regen? Let's get that out of the way first and already clear up what kind of artifact you're using on him. You only have 2 choices really, that at least are relevant. Number 1, Keen Wisdom. You're going to use Keen Wisdom only until you get a Golden Scarab, but Keen Wisdom is alright, gives him more attack, helps. But Golden Scarab is perfect. Golden Scarab just completely takes down the gear requirements you need to make him useful, because you're going to get all the rage regen you're going to need through Golden Scarab. Because if you imagine rage regen as a curve, pretty much the bonus or the effect you get for the first couple percent of rage regen, so like the first 40, is way bigger than what you actually get for the following between, I don't know, 10 to 100%. So for example, the difference in rage regen between someone with 45% rage regen and 150% isn't 3 times. It's not nearly as big. But let's get back to the gear. So there's also another benefit of actually building him like any other damage dealers, and that is again ancients. In most cases, you're going to find ancients, and they are going to have 3 good substats, 1 good main stat, and then a trash last 4 stat in most cases. And that stat is either going to be HP percent, HP flat, defense percent, defense flat, or healing effect. And that is also the interesting part. You can just now finally use these pieces as a perfect piece for a character. Normally, if you use this as a perfect damage piece, a healing effect is going to be wasted on that character. But now we have a damage dealer that's also a healer. So through some weird coincidence, I've managed to accrue a total of 3 healing effect substats, giving us a total of 61 healing effect, but also that's not something you really need to aim for. But let's start from the beginning, just go over the pieces quickly, and then also go over the sets. So the important part here for him in general also is attack speed. Because his ultimate isn't bound by a number of shots, it is bound by how many times he can shoot within 20 seconds. Attack speed is as valuable as on any other character, like for example a Comet. A Comet also really benefits from attack speed because he just can then do more attacks in his ultimate. So attack speed is quite nice, which is also why instead of going for a usual attack percent, crit rate, crit damage weapon, we're actually taking out attack percent and going with attack speed. For the chest piece, we just have a very standard attack percent, crit rate, crit damage chest piece, just because we need the crit rate. We want to go for a crit damage to make him hit harder, and then obviously attack percent to scale his healing. And then on the right side, we have obviously one piece attack percent with all the 3 subsets that we're looking for. Again, attack speed, so crit rate, crit damage, and attack speed. Another attack percent piece with crit rate, crit damage, attack speed. And then lastly, a crit damage piece, because we have already way over 200% attack, which means we can go into more crit damage to make his ultimate even hit that bit harder. So that pretty much also leaves us again with set effects. Obviously you can pick and choose whatever you want, but I would recommend, at least if you're already getting into the late game, that you move away from the whirlwind set again, because those added 75 attack speed on top of already 300 isn't going to make all that much of a difference. So then you only really are left with Calamity, Warlord, Annihilating Might. And if you have the choice between Calamity and Warlord, obviously you should go with Warlord, because that extra 30 attack speed might make the difference. But honestly, it's not really that bad, so you just really pick what you have. Alright, now lastly, obviously we still need to talk about set effects. Set effect wise, pretty much everything works on him, and let's again compare the 2 most popular sets, which is going to be Infernal Roar and Soulbound Arcana. It's again going to be a case of, with Infernal Roar, you're going to get the most damage up front, so he's going to be able to already put out his highest numbers, and with Soulbound Arcana it's going to take you around 2 to 3 ultimates to catch up to the Infernal Roar damage. So as long as you're playing long-term content or long-time content where you can guarantee that you're ulting multiple times, Soulbound Arcana is going to overtake Infernal Roar. But if you just want damage right out of the gate, obviously Infernal Roar is then the way to go. Aegis Wrath obviously is also usable, but it's going to be slightly below Soulbound Arcana and Infernal Roar. But also here, one important thing is you could technically even then run 3 times attack percent main set, which would increase your healing a bit more, and then just rely on the crit damage granted by the set effect instead of using a crit damage main set piece. A slappier set at the end of the day is really ignorable, because those 20 healing effects are way less worth it in comparison to just going for raw damage through his ultimate. Wisdom set isn't really advised because his ultimate is longer than 10 seconds. The Doom set doesn't work for him because he's not single target. Stick set, you could run a stick set, but stick set is rare, though if you have a good one you can run it on him because his ultimate is considered AoE damage. On the Night Terror set, obviously out of all the blue sets, Night Terror is probably the best option to go for. For the Hawkeye set, you do need to ensure that your Artemis actually has an attack interval of 1.2, and if we take a look at having 316 attack speed, we're not even anywhere close to getting 1.2 second interval, so the uptime of Hawkeye really isn't going to be anything crazy. The Fracture set is alright, but Fracture set is kind of like just the worst Aegis Wrath set, but it still has the same things. If you're running him in a lot of in content where you can guarantee that there's a lot of enemies, Curse set is perfectly fine, and Fatality, even though it's super rare to get, is also a good option. So those are all the sets you can use. And then it's again going to be at the top Infernal Roar and Soulborn Arcana. Slightly below that Ageless Wrath. After that the Night Terror set. And then just the rest of the sets kind of in the same bucket-ish. So now that we've talked about his gearing, now that we've talked about his artifact, it's finally time to show him off in some content. Alright, 121 time, but Artemis really has the same problem as Lucia, so you're kind of really forced into playing a certain formation, and that is just running 2 damage dealers, and one of them needs to be Artemis, and furthermore you also need to use Laurel to give him the extra rage by placing her in and removing her, or he's not going to be able to keep up with the amounts of heals. So what will happen is his rage regen, or him regenerating rage, whatever you want to call it, wouldn't be able to keep up with all the healing phases, and then the boss would just heal for a phase, and your Artemis would be late, and all your enemies would basically get healed back up. And that's not something we want, which is why we are kind of really only be able to run a double damage dealer team. But enough of that, let's have a look at the units. So we got Laura in an Invic set, Elowin with some rather alright stats, around 300% attack, 352 attack speed, 50 healing effect, and then a Euphoric Orb, but the Euphoric Orb really isn't crucial. Mary with around 200% HP, bit less, the more you give her the more she's able to survive, around 100% rage regen, 490 attack speed, and then a Nightmare Samsara for even more rage regen. Volker just has an invigoration set. Dolores is in a pretty normal set, so high attack, rather high rage regen, and then a keen wisdom. Aeon isn't running anything. Hollow's in a high attack speed, 100% attack, rather alright healing effect, and then a lot of rage regen set. So basically she has a high attack speed, low attack, high rage regen, and then some healing effect, and then a Bright Root Ring, but I don't think that Bright Root Ring really is that important. Artemis is running a pretty decent set, so over 200% attack, 334 attack speed, 100% crit rate, and 230% crit damage. Could be lower stats, and then we have a Golden Scarab to finish it off. And also the major difference is we have him on max skilled, because you really want that reduced skill cost if you want to keep up with the amount of anti-heal the boss is going to apply. And then we have Iona. Iona honestly is in a rather alright-ish set. So around 200% attack, around 250 attack speed, 100% crit rate, and then 160% crit damage, finishing it off with a 25 tier of Twilight. And then last but not least, we have Oleg, the wall, and his main job is to actually be our wall should our wall fall. Wow. Alright, 121 time. Here we go. Iona in, Laurel for the rage boost for Iona. Dolores so she can regenerate rage, and then as soon as we have it ready, we're going to bring in Artemis. There we go. And then right here comes the little bit of special sauce, which at the end of the day really isn't anything special, and that is us facing hollow to the left, so we will be able to heal this tile whenever we do decide to bring in Oleg. And right here we can just activate our ultimates, even activate Laurel, hope that Dolores hollow gets some rage, and then as soon as all ultimates are triggered, we can take her out, bring in Mary, and then on the other side bring in Elowin. Come on. And there we go. And then here continue keeping up the pressure, hitting those hounds just so we can keep our wall damage to a minimum. Already here we can bring in Volker with the Invic set, boosting Artemis. Hollow's already active. And then we just bring in Laurel, wait for the enemies to come in close, and then start with all our ultimates. So right here we're going to be able to freeze, start up Iona, start Elwyn, give some extra rage regen Artemis, also take out Laurel, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then as soon as Mary is ready again, we're going to use her one more time. Here we go. Hollow again. Ultimates as soon as ready. And go time. Here we can freeze again with Mary. And then kind of do the same thing we've done before, which is just put in Laurel. And then let our ultimates recharge. The important part is that you don't trigger your hollow, because right here we really want to be careful when it comes to timing. So right here we can already start Iona, and by this point, once they start damaging Dolores, that is when you want to activate your hollow, and then you can just go with the rest. You can take her out here. Bring in Mary for the freeze, for the extra damage through the synergy with the curse faction buff. And then also double, triple ensure that Mary stays alive. So yeah, so far so good, everyone's alive. And honestly, through all those guides I'm doing here, clearing those 21 stages, the most annoying part always is, always will be, and always has been making sure that your right side or even left side stays alive. Like there's nothing more annoying than those enemies coming in, you triggering hollow just that teeny tiny bit late, and then Jay just proceed to wipe your complete side. It's I don't know. So again, right here also, because of the damage that they decided to not target the proper units, Mary died, so that might even compromise a run, but we shall see how it goes. And that's why I really advocate to make a tanky Mary. Here again with Artemis in. Mary in. And as soon as possible, again, Mary with the freeze. Hollow. Quick Laura. So we can actually hopefully kill those enemies before they break the wall. And then it's time to use our own wall, which is Olagus. So yeah, basically if you can somehow make it happen that that Mary doesn't die, this run is going to be way more solid. I've had runs before, it's at the end of the day, it's RNG. I've had runs before where we were able to kill the enemy before the wall even got lower than 40%. And some of the time the wall just breaks because a character dies. So yeah. But here we at least have the chance to showcase the fact that Oleg is a wall. We let one unit pass, but that's just because Mary died for beautiful RNG reasons. Obviously, if you just take out Iona, put in like a Comet, Boreas, whatever you have, it's going to be worth it. Or even some stronger gear on Iona, more HP on Mary, better gear on Elwyn. There's a lot of chances you can take to just change the run here. And I mean, at the end of the day, it really comes down to who do your units even target. But yeah, here we go. Iona plus Artemis clearing 121 with the help of Oleg as a wall. So yeah, what you should take away from this video, or from this clip I guess, is that as long as you can place in Oleg, and as long as you can kill all enemies besides the boss before the wall breaks, you can just put in Olagus, have him be the wall, and then finish the fight. So yeah, that was 121, let's get to the rest. Right, obviously next off, let's have a look at his general damage, which is going to be him in our usual testing set with high attack speed, high crit damage, as well as the only damage boosting artifact, which is going to be Golden Scarab. And we're going to use him as well as A-Bomb. Both aren't going to have a lot, and we're just going to go in, and I think you will kind of already be able to see what I'm getting at. But yeah, let me actually stay in the middle of the... No, let's move myself over. So here we go. We're just going to place him in. bring an A-bomb, and then activate his ultimate, and go in with Oleg. So, what you're going to notice is the fact that Artemis, with this set in his ultimate, only deals around 15,000 more damage per hit than an A-bomb with his basic attack. And that's kind of really what I want to get at, and that is Artemis isn't all that great at dealing damage unless it's AoE damage and unless it's against enemies that are actually weak to magic damage. Or you, for example, give them vulnerability or reduce their inert magical resistance. So yeah, damage wise, but let's have a look at the content where he could be usable. Guild Boss, honestly, Guild Boss you rather go with Rage Region, so he doesn't really have a place. The resource rates and promotion rates you can clear without him, no problem. Gear rate wise, Gear rate 2, he doesn't have the damage to be worth it considering to deal with the units. He also doesn't have the tankiness, so he can't take the role of Vortex, so for Gear rate 2 also he doesn't really have a place there. Gear rate 3, he does magic damage and not even a lot, so also Gear rate 3 kind of falls out. And then we lastly have the only real hope, I guess, which is going to be Gear Dungeon. Now, Gear Dungeon, he definitely has a spot because it's again enemies that take magic damage and you can apply anti-heal. And that's also kind of his niche. You need, or it's not a niche, it's, I mean, at the end of the day, he does low damage or right-ish damage that is AoE, magic, and he applies anti-heal. If you have content where you can fit that kind of damage, he's going to be really, really good. But if you can't, then he's just going to be a healer that just helps support by dealing damage instead of Rage Region. So yeah, Gear Dungeon, also the important part about Gear Dungeon is there could be a modifier that just reduces the magic damage taken off enemies, which would then completely send him away, but at least he would still have his magic or like his anti-heal capacities, which would still be at the end of the day alright. So yeah, other content where you could technically still consider him, I mean Tide, everyone is technically good in Tide. Faction Trials, you're also probably going to find a place for him in Faction Trials, because at least he does AoE damage. You could use him as a straight up healer, or you could just use him for his AoE damage. You'll definitely be able to figure out something there. Arena, I don't think he really has a place in Arena, be it AoE single target or any arena in general, because again, you're most likely going to go for Rage Region or just for a real damage dealer. And then Void Rift. So for Void Rift, I kind of thought about him maybe being able to kill the enemies for the Shadow Keeper. Now there's only a teeny tiny problem with those. And that is the fact that the Adjudicators, so the one he wants to apply his anti-heal against, have magic resistance that is fully maxed out. So those dudes don't really take magic resistance, like magic damage in general. And that kind of leaves you with him being able to at least stop them from healing. So it makes it easier for your marksman to kill them. But you at least need him and then another marksman. And it's not going to stop them from getting the extra damage increase. So they're just not going to heal, but they're still going to get the attack increase, and then they might just wipe your team. So keep in mind, he isn't going to be super effective against them unless you plan it out and play it out properly. Which kind of brings us back to his kit again. So overall, he's definitely a unique character, being a damage dealing healer. He definitely heals well. He does alright-ish damage. He has his anti-heal. But yeah, that's about it. If you can find a place where he fits, he shines. If you try to use him in more general content, there's definitely units that outshine him. And on that note, I think we end it here. If you want to leave a like, consider subscribing, and we see each other in the next one.